Welcome. So today I would like to talk a little bit about being Christian and single. And I want to give you a little bit of my story and what I learned along the way. So we're going to start it out right before I begin to feel my singleness. So the first 2 or 3 years into my walk, I was just happy in God. You know, I'm over the moon in God. And I remember having conversations with women that really wanted to be married. And I would just say, you know, things like, if you gave him your cup and let him fill it up, you wouldn't be thirsty. I was sincere in my heart, but I couldn't relate or understand how they were feeling because I was just so happy in God. Until about 1.5 years later, when I started to feel my singleness. I couldn't watch a love movie or a romantic movie without going, God, what about my husband? When you going to send him my way? And, you know, it would just be moments where I would feel those feelings, but it was still enough for me to feel that longing, that desire. And it even got to a point where I remember asking him, I don't know if I really want the relationship or I just miss the skinship. Like, I miss being touched by a man. I miss being held by a man. So I really don't know if it's one or the other. But time went on, and I know that I shared in another video, I even hit a point where I began to feel invisible. You know, does anyone see me? You know, am I even pretty? All of these questions began to run through my mind, but then he would ground me again. Fast forward a little bit more forward. I ended up meeting someone. And it wasn't really at first a meet. It was just somebody that I regularly saw. You know, see him walk by. Hey, how you doing? Oh, everything's good. I'm good. You good? Yeah, we're good. And days went on that way. Weeks went on that way. And then, you know, the hey went to, you know, a small conversation. I started to get to know this person, you know, and I found out, hey, they're married. And it didn't matter to me because at the time I wasn't even looking at this person at all in that light. Well, time went on. And, you know, it's still kind of like, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. You know, how's life going? How's the wife? Yada, yada, yada. And then those conversations kind of to go towards, oh, well, things aren't going that well. Oh, it's not all what it's cracked up to be. And then finally one day it's, oh, you know, we're separating. So more time goes by. And along these weeks and months, something of a relationship, not dating, but a relationship is being formed. And I didn't think nothing of it. And then one day it came to a point where they said, hey, would you like to go for a walk? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like, no doubt, like, but let's do that. Hey, would you like to meet me here? Oh, okay, I'll meet you there. And as we began to hang out a little bit more, one day they decided they wanted to share that I really like you. I wish that I could say that I looked at him and said, I am flattered that you think this of me, but I am a holy woman of God, and I just can't go there with you. But I didn't. That's not what happened. I entertained it. I watered it. I nurtured it. You know, I began to have imaginations in my mind because months before that, I would have moments of desiring to be cuddled and held. And now this handsome guy that I've gotten to know, and he seems really, really cool, finds me interesting. And now, mind you, months have gone by. So in my mind, everything that I knew just wasn't in the forefront of my mind anymore. I would have desires or thoughts of being held. But the desires and the thoughts that I had never really was ever met or satisfied. The only thing that came my way was compromise. And I found myself compromising in the pursuit of what I thought I would eventually gain at some point. But it never came through. I just found myself hurt each time. And it's not to blame the other person, not one bit. I entertained something that should not have been entertained. So moving on. I thank God for His kindness. In the process of it all, I was still crying out because I knew what I desired, but I knew that I didn't want it this way. But I was still willing to compromise because of what I was feeling in that moment. I would like to say that it ended in an honorable way. That I said, you know what we're doing is wrong. I want to honor the Lord. That's not what happened. It really wasn't anything like that. I think it just, in my frustration of everything that was happening, all of the choices that I had made, and at the same time knowing that I wanted more, I just said to him, you have a nice life. And we stopped talking. And not to say that, I didn't run into him, but we just stopped. Now I had to go through the process of the Lord now filtering and cleaning and going through all of the emotional ties and the thoughts and the desires, everything, him having to purge through all of that, all of this unnecessary pain that I had put myself through, just because I wanted to satisfy this longing that I had within my own strength, within my own doing, my own ability. I'll reach my own happiness. So in the process of all of this, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about God. I think that in the church we have a very bad habit of putting on a mask and almost talking and acting as if we don't experience these things. We do. We experience life like anybody else does. But we have the opportunity to experience it on a completely different standard, from a completely different viewpoint. But I learned not to put no confidence in the flesh. I don't care how mature you think you are in God. You are not above this, okay? There is no scripture for strength when it comes to sexual temptation. Flee. And the reason why I know this is because I remember I was asking the Lord, I was like, Lord, please give me something to stand on. And he was like, run. Don't play with that. Don't play with it. Run. Even Paul said it is better to be married than to burn with passion. Listen, if y'all gonna be doing this, y'all better get married. It's better to be married than to burn with passion, because the only thing that we're entertaining is passion. Oh no, we've been dating 6 years. Y'all ain't never been intimate. Y'all either lying or y'all really don't like each other. Moving on. I personally, now this isn't a law, this is just a personal thing that I choose to do because of my own experience and what I've learned. I choose to stay away from the opposite sex. Now, and I don't mean in a fearful way. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm afraid to talk to the opposite sex. It doesn't mean that, if guys are around, that I go run off in a room somewhere. I speak to them just like I do anybody else. But there will be no exchanging of the numbers. There will be no hanging out, just you and I. It's just not wise. If you are not looking to marriage, then I would be very careful with the amount of time that I spend with a person. And I think that if you are going to date, I would say, or I wouldn't even say date, if you're going to get to know someone of the opposite sex, I would say do it in a way to where you can get to know each other in a group, in the safety of the group. So where, you're not like looking to touch her hand and she's not looking for you to put your arm around her. Like, don't do that. It's just not smart. Especially if you guys are both digging each other. It's just not smart. Another thing that I learned in the process of it all, as far as being unequally yoked, I would love to talk about it more in a separate video because I think that it can get long. But the one thing that I learned is I see God in the beauty of his children. I see God in his people. And I enjoy, me pouring into them pouring into me. And there is a love that is not of our own, but we all get to enjoy it individually and collectively. It is a beautiful thing. But I also know what it's like to be mad at his children. I have been mad with a sibling, but I've also seen the way that God processes our emotions individually and collectively. I could be mad. Like I think of one child in particular. I absolutely love her. But there are times where we do kind of get on each other's nerves. And I've seen how he has held our tongue to where we're not saying things about each other that is contrary to the way that he sees us. We silently kind of break off, and I'm venting to God, in my heart, and I'm sure she's doing the same thing. Like, this chick is something else. But I have also seen the way that he brings us together. the way that I can apologize or she can apologize, and the way that we can hear each other out, the way that we pour our hearts out. And it's not anything out of guilt, but it is so in the realm of love because it has first filtered through the hands of God. He's amazing. And just to think that all of this comes out of the unity of one spirit and one love, being of one mind and one heart in God. If I know what this looks like in His children, how much more do I have to look forward to that when it comes to my running mate? That this is somebody that is going to be one with me and I with him. And that we will be of one heart, one spirit, one mind, moving and thriving in the energy of God. That I get to look at him and be blown away at Christ in him. And he gets to look at me and be blown away by Christ in me. It is a love that continues to grow beyond comprehension because it's nothing of this realm. It is so heavenly. I'm excited for when that time comes. And I will gladly wait to do it on His terms, because I've seen what it looks like when I do it on my terms. I am only disappointed and compromised, but I know that waiting on Him, I will look at my husband on that day and say that you were absolutely, positively worth the wait. So with all of that, I would like to leave you with this. Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 4, when it says, "O daughter of Jerusalem, do not awaken love before it's time." I pray that you are blessed in your hearing, and as always, grace and peace.